Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl and welcome to the Sewing Room channel. In this tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate how to make a lady's blouse. And this pattern number is 8658A and it's manufactured by Simplicity Patterns. And I purchased mine at Walmart. Not all Walmart stores carry fabric and craft items and pattern books, but my local Walmart does. If you cannot find this pattern, try to find a pattern that is similar to it. Joann Fabrics and Crafts has a lot of pattern books that you can look at. The blouse that I'm going to do has this length right here. The sleeves that I'm going to do are the sleeves with a ruffle on it, and I will have little slits on each side of the bottom edge of the blouse. Flip the pattern over to the back side. You will see information up here at the top that describes your supplies and the type of fabrics that they recommend. If you're not familiar with these fabrics, when you go to your fabric store, ask where their clothing fabric is and ask them if they have any of these fabrics for you to choose from. As far as size, before you purchase any fabric, you need to know how much yardage. So all of your sizing information is listed here. You need to measure your body and look for those measurements, the pattern size that's closest to your size. It used to be where your pattern instruction sheets really focused in detail on one particular piece at a time. Well, pattern companies, in order to save money, have bundled in all different types of patterns all in one. And so when you look at the pattern description sheet on how to do what you need to do, it is a little confusing. So keep this in mind. Your fabric will be folded with the selvage edges together. So your fold is here, your selvage edges are here, and you'll have a raw edge at each end. On your pattern pieces, you will see a symbol that looks like this. This indicates the grain of fabric. All of your pattern pieces are going to be going in this direction. But occasionally on some of your patterns that you may use in the future, some will indicate this way. So make sure you understand where things are going to be. 2 of your pattern pieces will be placed on the fold line. All of your other pieces will be placed in this direction. Here are a couple of sketches of the blouse. It's basically this blouse. This is the front of it and the back, except instead of having long sleeves, it will have these shorter sleeves with the ruffle on it. So when you're looking through your pattern description sheet, please look for those areas that cover this. Your seam width on almost all of the seams will be 5/8 of an inch wide. If you do not have a serger sewing machine, you will need to do an overcast stitch. This is a sample on all of your raw edges. So if you don't have overcast stitches on your sewing machine that are quite elaborate, then use a zigzag stitch to bind the raw edges. If you have a serger, I highly recommend that you use your serger because, as you can see, it finishes those seams off beautifully. So your pattern piece mark number 1 is for the front, and you cut 1 and it is placed on the fold. Pattern piece number 2 is your back piece. You cut 2 pieces. Remember, your fabric is folded, so when you lay it down and cut, you cut around this once, you get your 2 pieces. It is placed on the straight grain. Your 2 sleeve pieces, piece number 3 and 4, are also placed on the straight grain. You cut 2 of each, and pattern piece number 7 is placed on the fold. There's that little arrow. You will cut 2 of these out. So you place this down, cut around it, lift it up, place it down again, and cut around it. You can use pins to hold your pieces to the fabric, or you can lay weights on it to keep it in place while you cut. On your pattern sheet, you will see these little triangular shapes on the edges of your pattern. This is really important that you look for your size. And let's say it's extra large. So you put it on the edge of your fabric, and then I lift it up, and I like to use a fabric marker. And I will just put a dot and a dot near the edge. So when I look for that symbol, I know that that's where I need to match it up with the other piece. All of the pattern pieces have all of the sizes drawn on it. So you have to be really careful you cut on the correct line. So therefore, you look for your size, and that's what you're going to cut on. What I like to do is take a highlighter, and before I do any cutting, I highlight my lines that I need to cut on. We're going to start with the back section, pattern piece number 2. You have 2 pieces. Now before I stitched my 2 pieces together, I serged the edges on the 2 sides and the bottom and the sides on the center piece. Then I brought the 2 pieces front sides together like this and stitched the center seam. Now on your pattern piece, which was kind of hard to find on the pattern piece because there were so many symbols on there, is a little circle that indicates where you start stitching, because this is going to be left open. So you're going to start stitching from that circle, which looks to be about 6 or 7 inches. So stitching a 5/8 wide seam all the way down to the bottom edge. Then you're going to unfold it at your ironing board, press the seam open. Now we're going to work on the opening, and we want to finish the edges off. So what you want to do is fold it in just a little bit, fold it over and press with your iron. Then fold it again and press with your iron, and do the same thing on the other side. Then you're going to stitch starting up here close to this folded edge all the way down, go just below where the seam opening is, stitch across, then stitch back up here, and back stitch at both edges up here. We're still working on the back of the blouse. Now you're going to take pattern piece number 4, the sleeves for the back side. Line it up here, and then stitch a 5/8 inch wide seam. Now on the piece for the front, that's pattern piece number 1, I pre-serged the edges along the sides and along the bottom. One other thing that I did differently is that I cut the front section 2 inches shorter than the design of the blouse, and that's because that's what I wanted to do. You don't have to do that. You can leave it the regular length that is there. Now take pattern piece number 3, the sleeves for the front, line them up on this curved edge here and stitch a 5/8 inch wide seam. Now you're going to take the front and back section and bring the pretty sides of the fabric together and line it up here at your shoulder seams. Pin it and then stitch a 5/8 inch wide seam along here. After stitching, then you want to press that seam and then open it up and press it open. In the pattern instructions, they recommend that you use double fold bias tape at the neckline, which that is fine if you do that, but I decided I wanted to use fabric that matched my fabric on the blouse. So I cut out my own bias tape, and it's cut on a 45-degree angle. The reason why is that it will stretch and mold around the neckline. So I recommend you cut it anywhere from 1¼ inches wide to 1½ inches wide. And I cut my strip about 24 inches long. So take your bias tape and leave about at least 1/2 inch or more extending out past the edge of the neck opening. Align it up right on the edge of the neck hole and then pin it down. And you're going to pin it all the way around to the other end, leaving at least 1/2 inch sticking out at the other end. Then the pattern recommends you stitch 3/8 of an inch wide seam. I just stitched 1/4 inch. Remember, the pattern is just suggestions. That doesn't mean you have to do everything like it says. Here's the center back seam, and if you have too much bias tape, then you want to cut it off to where it is about 1/2 inch extending out past this edge. Now you want to press this seam, pulling the bias tape up and press right along there, all the way around the neckline. At the opening, you want to take the end, fold it in, and I press it with my iron. I advise you to do it. It's going to be a lot easier. Now take the top raw edge of the bias strip and fold it over just a little bit and press it. And then fold it down. You want the folded edge here to be right at where it meets the stitch line. And continue folding it all the way around to the other end. Then you want to stitch right along this edge. Now you don't want to stitch below the seam line in here. You want to stitch slightly above it. It's real important, otherwise it's not going to look very nice. Now if you're going to use the elastic loop with button to close it, your blouse, then you want to make sure you insert the elastic in here before you finish stitching it closed. Now we're going to work on the ruffle that goes at the bottom of the sleeves. Remember, you should have 2 of these strips. You're going to fold the edge over about 1/4 inch and press it. Fold the other edge over 1/4 inch and press it. We're just pressing it at this time. We're not stitching it closed. On the other edge, you're going to do a large basting stitch so that you can gather the ruffle. Fold the ruffle in half, and then at the fold here, you want to pin it so you'll know where the center of the ruffle is. Now you're placing the ruffle on the end of the sleeve area. So here's my center seam. Where I place the pin on the ruffle is where I'm going to place this. Then take the other ends and pin it down at the end. And do the same thing over at this end. Then you're going to take your top thread and you're going to begin to gather up the ruffle. And as you're gathering, you want to get it to where it is even with the sleeve width. So you keep gathering it, smoothing it out until it's even with each end of the sleeve. So once you've done this side, you're going to pin this side down, pull on the top thread, and gather it up. So once you have it all pinned, then you want to stitch a 5/8 inch wide seam, or use your serger and serge it all together at one time. Remember, if you don't have a serger, make sure you do an overcast stitch on the raw edges also. As you can see, I have serged my edge, and when you unfold it like this is what your ruffle should look like. So after you have finished both of the sleeves and the ruffles, then you're going to bring your front and back section pretty sides together. And I went up about 6 inches from the bottom edge and put a pin, because I'm going to have a slit here. Then you're going to start stitching a 5/8 inch wide seam. So stitch all the way up to the underarm area, down across to the end of the ruffle. Here is the seam under the arm going down to the end of the ruffle. So you want to press this open and then fold the edges over at the bottom of the ruffle right in here. Then you're going to stitch the ruffle hem down all the way around, and you're going to stitch close to the edge all the way around. Press the side seam open. Here is the slits down at the side edge bottom. You're going to fold them over just like you did on the back opening. Fold it over and press, fold again and press on both sides. Then stitch on this inside folded edge up, across, and down. So after you finish stitching your little slit down, then the last step is of course the hem. So I'm folding it over about 1/4 inch and press, fold it over again and press. You do this on both the back and front sections. Then you'll stitch close to the edge all the way across on both the front and back. I'm going to go over some of the sections and give you a close-up view of the finished blouse. So here is the center back seam, here is the opening, and here is the opening edges up here at the top. You'll also see how the band is stitched down at the top. Now I'm going to be doing a hook and eye, and it's going to go on the inside of this area here, and that's how it will hook together. So here's a close-up view of the neckline, and you can see where the stitches are just slightly above the seam right there. This is the inside of the ruffle sleeve. And here is the side opening here, and then here's what it looks like on the inside. Well, I certainly do hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to make a lady's blouse. I have other clothing where I've done other different styles of blouses, and there will be a playlist listed below of clothing tutorials that I have. So to get to that playlist, you want to scroll down to the description section. Click on Show More or the down arrow. It will expand open and you will see the links appearing. I will also have tutorials listed there that are beginners sewing projects. Now don't forget to follow me on Instagram and make sure you check out my Facebook page. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and happy sewing. If you like the Sewing Room channel, one of the best ways to show your support is to subscribe by clicking on that red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. And make sure you click on the bell so you receive notifications for all my new videos. I'm Cheryl, this is Manny, and this is Scotty. See you next time.